Collins & Co.'s not-for-profit conference, Be Empowered Through Knowledge, is designed specifically for the not-for-profit sector. Our speakers are experts in this sector, and their practical approach provides not-for-profit board members and management with the opportunity to improve their skills and knowledge across a range of specialist topics. The conference also provides a great networking opportunity.
Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Boy, I thought that was a much shorter introduction when I put that down. Thank you so much. Who's enjoying today? How can you not? The speakers have been unbelievable. I'm actually a little bit like, oh my goodness, it's a hard act to follow, right? The good thing is this session is not like the previous sessions that you've attended, because I really want it to be a Q&A and a case study type session, right? So the first thing that I have up here, and it really is about kind of hopefully helping you know some stuff that you don't already know. Have you heard about that sort of levels of learning, right? We start off, we don't know what we don't know, and then the next level is we start to know what we don't know. This session is kind of about sharing what I don't know, well, hopefully helping you know a few more things that you didn't know, and also helping me know some stuff that maybe you don't know that you'd like to know more about. So, first spot quiz, does anybody have preschool kids or watch ABC Kids and know who these guys are? You do know who they are? What? So they're the Dotty Watts, right? And so these guys have all the intelligent knowledge in terms of what's happening in life form for Dotty. So that's Dotty and Spotty Watt. So I have a 4-year-old as well as a 24 and a 22-year-old, but the 4-year-old is the reason that what is in my world. But the first thing I'd like to know is who's in the room. Now, I know you're part of charity, and in actual fact, I just had this little brainwave while I was here, is that all the speakers have been coming, and some of them I'm connected with already, and some that I'm not. But has most people got their technology with them, their phone? Most people? And does most people have the LinkedIn app on the phone? What do you think about the idea of going into you go into your network, people that are more averse with the technology, maybe going in on LinkedIn and going and seeing your network. You just go to your network and then you push this little button that's sort of down here and you can see who's around me, right? If you turn Find Nearby on, then you can kind of see who's in the room, right? So there'll be people in the room that I'll already be connected with, like Sandy here, and there'll be some people in the room and Frank's one of the first on Jeepers. Frank, Words on Wednesday. If you're not already onto it, go and have a listen. Sandy, thank you. Now, and so I can see that Vaishnavi, great. I'm going to send you, I'm going to push that little button there and I'm going to connect. But one thing that my direct marketing lecturer taught me is that personal and direct is the most powerful of any marketing communication. Now, my direct marketing lecturer is actually in the room here, is this gentleman over here, Frank Chamberlain, from Monash University. Also copywriting with action words, but it is the most powerful of the social media because it's personal and direct. Right, so now, Vaishnavi, what I'm going to do today, and if there's others that I aren't already, I'm going to go Adrian. I can see Adrian. Adrian, you're at Footscray Community Arts Centre. We're neighbours. I'm just down the road. Christopher Dixon. So it's important that tonight when you go home, and if you've pushed the button on people, so is anybody having trouble doing that? Is everybody okay? So at least those people that I've just done, and anybody that you went through and you just pushed the button, make sure tonight that you go back and say, hey, great, how did you find today's conference? If you don't have that dialogue, then a few months down the track, you'll be looking at your list, you think, how the hell did I know Vaishnavi? Well, don't know this. So do it. You'll form a connection. Sandy's told us it's all about stories and relationship, and how strong and powerful was that today? You know, you share a story, right? Straight away, there's no way I would have known you guys are from my Footscray neighbourhood, so it's fantastic. So I kind of know a little bit about who's in the room, and we're clearly all here in the room about not-for-profit. But the main thing I kind of want to know is why you're in the room, right? So I really, as I said, I don't want this presentation to be a telling you presentation. At least I don't want to tell you stuff that you don't want to hear. So can I have a few people? In fact, I'm going to pick from what Sandy, just have a quick discussion with the person next to you. why it is, because I'm a last minute speaker, I am absolutely impressed. Thank you so much for coming to my session. The last time this happened to me, it was one of actually the Direct Marketing Forum. I was invited as a last minute replacement for the Australian Ballet marketing lady. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a disappointment for those people. Right, so I'm so thankful for you joining the room. But please, with the person next to you, can I just get you for 60 seconds, say, why did you choose this room? And it may well just be convenience, you've been here all day, but try and come up with another reason as well. Why did you choose this session? And what is the one or two things that you're really wanting to find out about? Can I give you 60 seconds just to do that? All right, I think Sandy said 60 seconds is all you need. So if we all had 60 seconds to get some whys, I'll work around the room. Can we get just a why from each couple? Why are you guys in the room this afternoon?
I'm here because I just feel like in my workspace I've just been kind of making up how to do social media.
Okay, so you're kind of winging it. So you want to kind of do better than wing it. Yeah, okay. Wing it, okay. The next Rose.
We use social media predominantly in terms of our marketing communications and connecting with audiences, so that's what we do. But I think I'd be interested in knowing how we can leverage it more so for other things and how to kind of optimize it in terms of determining what kind of strategy you have.
Okay, so optimize it. And when you say you use it quite a lot, which social media are you using specifically?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Okay, Instagram, Twitter. And of those, because remember we're all at different levels, and my expectation is certainly the idea of today is we're pitching this at the lowest so that we get the best, and so then we get the advantages from the people that are perhaps more advanced as well. Of these, do you find that you're getting, or is there any particular questions or things around the particular channels that you would have?
Not like specifically, but just kind of, I guess, more specifically around the kind of purpose like each one serves. Like I think more and more people are using Instagram more so than Facebook now, and how we can kind of use that to engage people, but also conversions in terms of increasing revenue.
And conversions is good. So you're advertising?
Yeah.
Are you advertising just on Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I think we need to know something about paid advertising and what
Yep.
the difference in those
Yeah.
platforms serve.
Yep. Sure. Yep.
Paid advertising on Facebook compared to LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. We can cover off on that. The couple of guys out the back. Any questions or any particular reasons why you're sitting in here that it might be of interest, other than it was convenient? The bloke looked handsome up the front, look a little bit like ourselves, matching general age group.
I'm here because as a foundation that is trying to do good in the world, we've discovered that Facebook and LinkedIn are probably the most common medias used in this day and age.
Yep.
And at our age, I haven't got a clue how to use it.
Yeah, no, clueless is honest, right? And to be honest, my main client, I imagine often, particularly in business, this is a common, particularly service-based, but my client typically looks most like me. So in other words, somewhere between Gen X and beyond, right? I'm going to introduce a couple of people that I work with in the room already. In fact, Frank's getting a bit of an honourable mention here. We do work together, but effectively we've got both Sue and Sharon from IDEU, but typically it's a more mature business person that we do work with, and often I would almost say that we're dumb around it, right, around that space, but the smartest thing that we can do is actually ask some people that kind of know. So in fact, it's okay to be dumb, but it's smart to not stay dumb, I think. So I'm really happy that you're in the room. Now you two, you're here because I told you to be here, but any other reasons?
Well, I'm here because, Sue wanted me to be.
Honest.
She's the CEO, but I am the chair of the board, so, I think we're on equal footing, really.
Okay, good.
But also because last year I came to Steve's session and I was so impressed with what he had to say that I figure I'll just keep coming to his sessions each year because they'll be really informative and I'll learn stuff. even more, because I've always loved social media, but I could see that we were not optimising what we, how we were operating.
Yeah, and to be completely honest, I wasn't sure there was going to be more than the three of us, or plus Frank, but so I'm glad that you're here. Thanks so much, Sharon.
Just add,
Yes.
and also because of Sharon coming last year, although we're a tiny, tiny organisation, we decided it was actually sensible to hire Diffie to get our social media sources.
So just continue to grow and learn more. Awesome. And ourselves here, are you still connecting with people on LinkedIn? Yeah. Good job. Yeah, fantastic. Well, there's something, as I said, if there's only one thing today, that's fantastic. Sandy, I don't know, this is the second time I actually presented after Sandy, but the last time I didn't get to hear her speak, so it was fantastic to hear her speak today. Yeah.
Oh, why am I here?
Yeah, why are you here? Oh, just because you wanted to stick around because you're embarrassed to leave. Otherwise. Yeah, that's good.
Presentation after the last time.
Well, you'll be glad you're here today because it's better. Right, fantastic. And yourselves?
So, I didn't actually book my sessions, and the session that someone else booked me into was cancelled.
Ah.
I had a choice between whistleblower and something that I didn't know, but the title was very, very interesting.
Okay.
And so I came along to this
That's
one.
good.
But now that I'm actually here,
You-
talking about social media.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you said now I'm actually here. I'm saying you'd like to
Go back to that one. Yeah.
No.
You're close to the door.
I'd like to know about how to, so I actually do a lot of social
Yep.
media, and I find it very time consuming.
Yeah.
So I'd like to
That's a
know-
good point. Yeah. So I think we've heard a few times today where often, what do they say? People with time often have no money, and people with money often have no time. So I think that time management is a really, really good point. So that's something, make sure we touch on that today. So we'll definitely talk about that. Right, just moving, a couple of gents there.
same story.
Same, yep.
So we came not knowing, didn't we?
Yeah,
We came up the stairs not knowing what we were coming to because the other one was cancelled. But this is great.
Okay, good. Even though you've both got your arms crossed, and I'm no body language expert, but I'm thinking you're kind of my age group. You're looking at me, thinking this guy might sell me at the end. I'm not. Believe me, this Q&A. My friends from the same business, web development and offerings. Yeah, Floaty.
Just curious,
Curious.
you at lunch and wanted to see what it was all about.
Yeah, and so, well, the other thing is because you are in web, it's so there's often a big confusion around, we were talking about values before, or Sandy was, and particularly online and social and the internet is so big and broad. One of the great things, and one of the reasons I'm really glad that Michael and Carly are in the room, because, in our world, it's still so important to have the in-person contact. So the irony is, to be honest, in terms of a lot of my business, particularly when you're talking about 45-year-old business people plus, it doesn't come because they've seen me on social media. Because they're not on social media half the time, right? So it comes because they've got the printed matter, or they've met me in person, that sort of thing. So ultimate trust and relationship is so important. So really great. And web and social, we'll talk about in a little bit, but clearly in my world at least go hand in hand from a strategic point of view. We're almost there.
Same as others, was looking to something else.
Oh, yep. So, yeah. So basically second option. Yeah. Second option, yeah, that's all right. Believe me, someone that's come after the Australian Ballet, nothing phases me now. No, that's okay, good. And the last one's there.
Yeah, same.
Cool. Oh, same or same, exactly. Okay, cool. And our video creators at the back, are you allowed to talk? You're just here because you're probably part of the paid gig. Yeah.
It was interesting what you were saying then about
If I flip through.
older generation preferring still like a paper-based
Yeah.
or something. How can we translate those people or encourage them to then move to our socials?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're going to cover, but
Yeah, so that's it. So as you said, so it's probably that question. I haven't really done this well, but I'm going to number these a little bit. There's probably a lot of crossovers here, but I want to make sure I do. So basically, you're saying migrating from traditional, almost there, yeah? Would that be fair? Migrating from traditional. We also heard today, if those were in Ayla's talk, she talked about marketing, she touched on sort of email marketing, the amount of email we get, right? So clearly in that cluttered space, again, how many people actually open the email? You want to get them maybe that they'll, and there's you know, there's ways you get them from the email to the socials or whatever. Yeah, we will touch a little bit on that. So, fantastic. Thank you so much. That really helps us out, and we're going to really try and touch off on any of those things. And at the end, if I don't get a 1-minute warning that sort of sneaks up on me, we'll make sure that we've done that. So, oh look, I've skipped ahead already. I must be just nervously like clicking on things. Okay, so the idea being is we're going to cover off some things that we don't know. And the reason, right, so the why. The why is always really important, right? And it was touched off on storytelling. So in my world, whenever we're talking to people, and we do a lot of education before we work with anybody, right? The idea in the first place is to protect your business on socials, right? Who knows that your name can be used by anybody realistically, and in many ways, just because you don't put your name on social media doesn't mean that someone can't review you online or say things about you online. So you may as well own it, right? So you may as well own your name and your socials and your online presence, save someone else A, owning it, or save someone else talking about you and you not knowing about it, right? So you may as well own it. I also said you don't need to be across everything. I have a different opinion. My opinion is you should own everything online. I often get people that are older that will come to me, and it's a bit like getting my social media house in order. Gary would be a very typical, Gary, I don't know, Gary, you're a marketer, right? Yeah, very good, gold medal marketing. Fantastic. So Gary would be a very typical person that would come to me, and you know, they say that you can work with a skeptic, you can't work with a cynic, right? So skeptics are okay. The idea being is you want to basically, getting back to the point, you want to create the social media assets. In my world, and the reason I was sort of asking those, we pointed out the 4 channels there. Facebook owns Instagram, it's the powerhouse, right? 18 million of us checking out feeds every day mostly. Twitter, mainly just Q&A users, but not that many people use, or celebrities, but it's a great way of placing you, and you can brand it and basically in your industry and connect with the people locally, that sort of thing. LinkedIn, 2 parts. I'm not talking about LinkedIn where I put the video on my dashboard and talk while I'm driving. I don't know why people do that. Why do they do that? It doesn't give you any more authority to say I can drive and talk at the same time, right? Just get a video, mount it on your desk and talk to me. But there's you, personal brand, and being the best person you can be for your not-for-profit, and then there's your not-for-profit. So you talk through the not-for-profit. Because I Dare You, for instance, is much bigger than Sue. It's much bigger than Sharon. It's much bigger than the board. It's much bigger because it's all the people that are involved and touched by I Dare You. So often people make the mistake of being their business, particularly on something like LinkedIn. You don't have to be. You be the business, what does that one say? Backpacks?
For Vic Kids.
Fantastic. So backpacks for Vic Kids, right? That's the business. It's big, right? So that's something you can promote through. That's something you can have it as your landing page, that sort of thing. It's not about individuals within there. So LinkedIn company. The other ones that aren't up there, it is a social in terms of it's something that we create for businesses, is your Google My Business, right? So what happens when people put your name on search engine? What comes up? So Google My Business, something that you can simply own, enables people to review you, talk about you, share with you. And Google owns YouTube. Second biggest search engine, right? So Google and YouTube. The best, YouTube is actually, I would argue, one of the best landing pages you can create because you can actually put your banner in, put your logo there, and put all your web and your social icons all in the one place, as well as adding video. The other thing, and people didn't touch on, but often in my world people get confused about when engaging the services of somebody like my business, is that content creation and content communication are different. They're 2 separate skills. In fact, what we learn at marketing is small business, not-for-profits, and even what Elsa talked about today, tend to think of marketing as marketing communications only, right? Marketers think of business. So we think of, have you got your price right? Are you distributing in the right area? You know, your geographic, what's your niche compared to someone? So effectively, marketing in its fullest context, service marketing, 7 Ps. I'm not going to quote them. It's not that session. But realistically, marketing communications typically is what small business, not-for-profit tend to think of marketing. And that's where we're focusing here. So technically speaking, I'm a social media marketing communications person. right? So that it's about sharing. And the sorts of things that Sandy was talking about, creating blogs and stories. I mean, it's not even just, you know, we've got other copywriters in the room. So realistically, it's how you bring that language in. I think it was also certainly one of it. No, the lady who was fantastic, the donor, dating the donor. You know, I love that. She could give that talk any session. That could just a customer, dating the customer. I'm using that, right? Basically, it's just knowing that customer. How do you get back? Because really, there's only two things in marketing, right? Marketing communications. Basically, keep the people that you've got, get them coming back, and get new people. Usually when I'm educating and speaking to people like Gary, for instance, if they've got a business and they're roughly my age, and I say Gary because typically, again, for those people that are in the session with Elsa, that bloke that said, social media, give me a shit, that's my client. I need her to introduce me to that guy, right? But basically, the women are often more relational. They kind of get it a little bit more. They understand relationships better, and so social media doesn't piss them off quite the same way. But anyway, ultimately, why? Protect our asset, create value in our online presence, differentiate us from our competitors. Ultimately, we mentioned there's so many different ways that we're competing. You want to make sure that your business, your not-for-profit business, is on brand and it has a presence that your competitors can't compete with necessarily. Be top of mind, ultimately increase inquiry, increase donations or whatever it is that increases business within your business. And as I said, the overriding advantage is to provide some sort of competitive advantage. There's all sorts of things that you can look up. Yellow do a once a year social media report. It talks about 50% of businesses in Victoria not having one iota of social media, right? So effectively, and those ones that do probably have a Facebook page. Of them, less than 15% have ever advertised, right? So if you've never advertised and you only have a Facebook page, you kind of have a really weak landing page. Website's a lot stronger, right? It won't do anything for you. So look, the first thing we do with businesses is we do an audit of those 6 channels we spoke of. Case study in here with my 2 friends from I Dare You. You know, because effectively we don't know and they don't know where they're at to start with. So the first thing, and I know you can't easily see this, so I'm going to talk it through and work with me here. We just put in the name on Google. What comes up? What we know is there's no Google My Business, right? So there's nothing here. We then, what does come up is the website. We look at the website. We've been taught to read websites kind of like this, right? So who are we? They does kind of a long description here of what they kind of do, but there was no social evidence, right? So I often use the example, I live in West Footscray, I back onto Barclay Street Village, which is the best Indian food village in Victoria, Melbourne maybe. But I open the back door and the waft of dosa comes out into my house. But you walk down that street, you've got Angan lining out the door. You go past one place, no one there. You go past the next place, 2 people there. You go past Dosa Corner and Dosa Hut, complete opposite sides of the road, teeming with people, mainly Indians, right? That to me is social proofing, restaurant style, right? This is no different. Are you a business that's social? Are you a business that can be communicated through on your social media? Can you talk to me? Because realistically, we were all taught brand marketing when we went and studied marketing, right? None of us got taught small business marketing. It's not even a thing, right? I came out of a local government, not a thing. Anyway, small business marketing, basically it's about, so if you're a brand manager, you want to be able to, you've got this thing now, even in corporate world, where you used to be able to tell people, our brand stands for this. This is what we are. This is who we are. And you didn't really have the fear of anybody coming back. You just pummeled them. You know, this is what we are. This is our offer. This is how we sell. Nowadays, your customer can say to another customer whether you're good. They can perhaps go through to your supplier. They can review through. So everybody can talk to B2B, B2C, C2C. Is really just P2P. Everybody on social can talk to everybody, realistically. So anyway, another reason why to be a social business. One of the things, so this was Sue. Sue in herself actually was reasonable in terms of she was relatively completed profile. I put this in just to remind me, things that look good on print look shit on social, right? So an I Dare Dream is really nice, right? And that's a really good, solid print type, even uniform type thing to have. But we want on social media, it's all about real people, real places. This inadvertently goes through our brain and says, oh, she wants me to do something. She's selling me something, Well, what's that? Don't know, right? So it's actually having the reverse effect, right? So we'll see what it all looks like. We had an incomplete LinkedIn page. This is probably unfair. I don't think that printed out. There was a cover. It was probably something like that. We had a lot of bulk imagery. So again, with social media, and this is Instagram, and this was Twitter they had, and YouTube we had to create. Realistically, hopefully just from a broad brush, you can see the stuff that we do. Basically, we went in there and then we do a session where we set up and plan, right? So we just go and all of a sudden you've got a Google map. You know you can connect with this as a social business. She's no longer selling us, right? There's real people involved in this business, right? It's communicating regularly. It doesn't show, but it's on a daily basis. There's communication. Again, it's Facebook. Again, we kind of got rid of the blocky images. Twitter, videos. Now, Sue, and so and in fact, I think one of the very first questions, Sue, I've said I've got to get you talking a little bit more than I have so far. Sue, initially, so it's one thing that people say, here you go, get on with this, do with this what you will. But Sue's case, she wanted to create, right? So Sue, just let people know a little bit what some of the things you were doing and some of the things you've increasingly done now on social media.
So one thing that I was doing and continue to do is vlogs on social media.
So video blogs, yeah.
Video blogs, and didn't do them well either, but got training on that. Most important thing for us and what we were doing is, what I was doing was a bit like the winging it, but I call it scattergun. And I was doing the same type of thing across every section. So I'd put the same post, for example, on Facebook, and then I'd put it onto LinkedIn, I'd put it onto all the rest, and I had to get educated that we're talking to different audiences, so things have to be slightly different. And that was a big change for us. The other thing that was happening with us at the same time as we were looking at our website, because we knew we weren't connecting. We were doing a lot of hard work, one of us was doing a lot of hard work, and it's the one you're looking at. But it wasn't connecting with the audience, and yet I'm a storyteller, so I couldn't figure it out, but then I've got no marketing experience. So all of our sites, as you saw before, were different, and if you start to look now at particularly our headers, what Steve's done is made them continuous. It's got the same header, so the same story is being told across each area, and the website marries into this as well. Yep. And that's been powerful to bring it all together.
Yep. So it's all telling the same story and it's all telling the same brand. And I will talk a little bit. So that's that content creation where Sue is creating that. The businesses that often work best are ones that don't just say, here you go, you look after it, right? So Sue is very impassioned, a lot in this room are, and she's creating content. And Sue, what do I tell you when you create that content?
Tells me to behave. No.
Right. Other than tidying you up a little bit.
It tightens me up.
So I tell you to put the content to web first, right?
Yes,
website is the content repository. I didn't
needed,
brief her on that.
Sorry, Steve, I was going to say, we needed to get the people landing on our website, we needed to raise that profile. And so going to web first and then everything coming back through to social media guarantees that our web's being landed on there.
So it may well just as a strategy, just to tidy up a couple of the things that are here, right? So from an optimal strategy, if you use your website as your content house, basically it has two advantages. Firstly, someone in social like me can repurpose that more than once. Social media is all about newsfeed. It's not about creating another website. It helps a little bit around search, but it's largely about newsfeed, right? So particularly us more mature people, I often explain if you understand the newspaper, you understand social media. It's about getting into news feeds. I'm going to show you a little bit about reports in a second, but ultimately the people that visit your page are minimal by comparison to the people, so a Facebook page, by comparison to the people you're reaching in their news feeds. And that's what it's all about. 10 minutes, woohoo! We're smashing it. All right, so consistency of brand, consistency of messaging and storytelling. And when you go from, as Sue touched on, when you go from one of these sites back to the website, it's the same story. You know this is the business. You're not confused. Oh, that could be the idea that somewhere, you know that's the business. Where you say same hashtags, all that sort of stuff, right? For those that are interested, there's other ones out there. I'm a bit inertiated into Hootsuite, but people will often say, and it didn't really come up as a question, but there is an element of what is the optimal amount of sharing, right? So, and time management. So in this case, we're doing the not-for-profit and extra small every second day sharing, right? And that every second day is start of the week, end of the week is about I dare you. Middle of the week, not about I dare you. It's actually about I dare you. So it's actually going into the feed, being social, engaging with other things that are in the industry, engaging with people in the geographic area, sharing something back to the page from that other area. Sometimes that could be quite big, right? Could be opportunities. I mean, a lot of the stuff clearly that Sue is doing is around NDIS. Grabbing stuff from there, sharing back across, potentially with some rant around whether it's appropriate or not, right? But ultimately, depending on what you're sharing, you could share something that has let's say Telstra. Telstra might spend $5,000 on a video that they've shared on their social, bugger all people necessarily that resonate with social, but you share that to an I dare you that has a really strong impassioned following, Telstra kind of go, shit, thanks. Thanks for sharing that across to your network. We might not have got to them otherwise. So you can actually ambush social media market where everybody kind of wins, right? Because you win because you've got a big business looking at you. Your customers are getting information from somewhere else that might be relevant to them, and the bigger business or the strategic partner is also thankful for you doing it. But often a common question when you use a Hootsuite type scheduler that we use, realistically, if we wish to, we can have it automatic time. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? People tend to read social media before work, at lunchtime, or after work. When you push auto schedule in Hootsuite, it won't schedule after 8 o'clock, right? I've had people tell me, oh, well, I schedule at 10 o'clock because that's when they're at end of the day, they've got kids, it doesn't matter, it's a news cycle. Have you seen in your LinkedIn feed, for instance? It might be 2 days later that I see Frank's on the algorithm on LinkedIn, right? It doesn't really matter that much, just share. What matters is constipation, right? So that shouldn't be a barrier to entry, right? Of when should I share? When's the best time? Organic reach is tough. The only one that really lets everything through the keeper nowadays is Twitter. Facebook, Instagram. In Australia, we're lucky. 10 to 20% of our following on Facebook probably gets to see. The reason we do an every second day post is we want how many people are following I dare you at the moment? 300, 400? Anyway.
Following ID is over 1,000.
Oh, 1,000. Sorry. Apologies. We're smashing it. Oh, there you go. Oh, jeez. Right. So if there's 1,000, our intent is that those 1,000 people would get to see the messaging at least every couple of weeks. We don't expect them to see every message, right? So understanding, and in my layman's term, I call the organic messages that we do marketing. So they're getting to people that already know of us, are part of our network. The ones that don't know us from Adam, that we want to get to, that are in our target audience, that's advertising. You spend $1 on it because it's well worth spending $1. We've got 1,000, it might take me 2 weeks to get to those 1,000 people organically. If I spend $5 a day, I could probably get to them within 3 days. But specific people, right? How old are they? Where do they live? All that sort of stuff. So advertising, quick story. I have a sport and rec background, right? One of the first gigs I ever did was with Melbourne Tigers. I told Michael this, I think. Anyway, Melbourne Tigers, they had a competition. You go win a prize to play, see Paddy Mills play in the States. He's a basketball player, great player. I was spending $10 a day on advertising for this competition. The marketing guy comes down and he goes, whatever you're spending, Steve, spend 5 times. Because they're all coming from Facebook. This was 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. But the reality was they had street boards and integrated marketing, still really important. But if you've got particularly hyper, if you've got fans, then you're going to reach them when you advertise, right? You are going to reach them, right? So, advertising is kind of into your sales area. When the flip of that, if I have companies come to me and tell me, I want to spend $5,000, and I have this said, certain businesses come to me, I want to spend $5 a month, but I don't think I want to do any messaging. I don't want to do it. You can't do one without the other. We've talked about trust, and particularly in your space. If you're only advertising, and then I go and have a look at your social media sites and your people just go, oh, they just want my money. That's all they care about. Anyway.
So is advertising the same as having like boosting?
Yeah, boosting. So boost is the cheats way, right? So boost is probably, so we use Facebook Ads Manager. Technically, if you've set up your saved audiences, you can still boost from the page and it can be effective, right? But beware of the time. What we try and do, just for those, if that's a question for anybody in the room, when to boost. You would have seen, for those that are doing some Facebook stuff, Facebook will say, oh, this post is performing 80% better, right? So if we've got an idea, so we're talking about promoting some environmentally friendly bags, right? So what I would do with that post is I would post that on a Monday. I would tell Sue and Sharon, and I would go in there, I'd like the bejesus out, or I might share it to a group if it's relevant. And then Facebook goes, oh, this looks like a popular post. Then we promote it to the target audience that we've set. We use Facebook Ads Manager, and it's going to go to, Facebook owns Instagram, so it's going to go into Instagram. As soon as you're promoting it to Instagram, you've got the potential to put call to action, right? That's the only time. So anyway, results. Because just understand is that results, the expectations most people have within their business, we need to make sure the whole context of this talk, if you like, and the what is to understand what expectations are realistic expectations. I hope you're getting a little bit of it, right? So understanding that if you've got 100 people following you on Facebook, well, that's the 100 people you're going to reach. And if it's not working for you, well, it's probably not working for you because those 100 people maybe they don't like it that much. I don't know. You know what I mean? You've got to build a following. You've got to educate that following, entertain, tell a story. If you want to get new people, you've probably got to advertise, right? So the interesting thing on this one, you can hopefully see a little bit of this, but this is actually a month after they haven't been advertising, right? They're getting incredible organic. As you said, I think it's over 1,000. It doesn't show here. But 2,600 people reached in 28 days is bloody good, right? It's bloody good. 570 engagement is super bloody good, right? For a page that's not advertising. Frank knows this. We do it with action words, right? We're not getting that sort of reach. It's increasingly, but effectively, most business, let's say this was not-for-profits have the advantage of they cross over from almost into entertainment. We kind of like you. You're real people. You know, you're doing good, right? So your organic should be higher, but this is super high, largely probably around Sue doing the video, right? And then page views, this is what I was getting at before. That's actually a really high page view. So actually people just coming into the page is 115 people just coming to the page itself to sort of go through. Some pages, if you look at this one, if you are using it, 5's high. If you've got a website, how many people are coming to your website? Compare that just to this Facebook page. So these are really good results, 252 video views. Again, really good result for someone that's doing video. This one here is where it talks about, so what we do is when people often say to us, I'm not sure it's working. I'm not sure social media is working. I'm like, well, that's strange. Because in this case, this doesn't give me the summary, right? But let's say, not just are they coming into the page and they're seeing it in the feed, the trick is to get them back to the website. The Facebook Pixel is our version of analytics, right? It's telling us that we had over 270 people go to the home page. We had 145 or so go to the events page and 89 go to, it looks like that was the support workers, care workers, an event, I think, right? But it's actually telling us that they're going in. So remember the strategy is to get them to the website, to ask more, find out more about the business. Now we have analytics, yep.
Can I just comment on that too? One thing that's wonderful about Steve sends us weekly and monthly, bi-monthly reports. For the board, which I'd be doing my CEO report about social media and rabbiting on and not knowing what I was talking about except saying how many likes there were. Because it's so in-depth now, we're able to see where it's working, where it's not working, where the likes are, where to spend more effort and spend more time, and I can give a clear report to my board.
Which is good. So kind of these guys are the champions for the project, really, so that's great. We focus more on Facebook and Instagram is because that's where most of the people is and a lot of the traffic is from. We get similar impressions around our analytics for Twitter and our how many people and what posts are more influential on LinkedIn. That's for the business. And then similarly, we get insights around how many people are actually searching, how many times have you turned up. Because of that Google map, insights tell us how many times people have been searching. We're getting there. Last thing, so that's a bit that crossover. Yeah.
Just a question about YouTube versus Vimeo.
Oh, yeah. I would always, I put people into, I think if you're a videographer, and in fact that's almost a better question for the team at the back, but from a search and a social perspective, Google owns it, search engine, may as well own it, right? That's my sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect, awesome. Often just because we were talking about Google, reputation management is also important, something that a lot of people, and I've had businesses say to me, not necessarily businesses we're involved with, but, and we did hear it today already, you're more likely to go to businesses that have Facebook review, Google review. So it's important to have the asset, to have the capacity to be reviewed. So I won't dwell on that. What we've talked about today is just a simple strategy. This will be as part of this, as part of the handout. I did have slide envy with Elsa. My slides total 8 and I've got a bookend and a starter. But effectively, this is kind of flowing through what we've talked about. No amount of social media will make a duff business or a duff not-for-profit any good. You've got to be good, right? So you want to make sure you've got your act together, then it's a powerful part of your marketing. We've talked about the fact that everybody can talk to everybody in this new world. Yep. We've talked about a strategy that says we take it through to the social information to get them back to the website, to the phone or to the email. That's the strategy, right? You're taking bite-sized chunks to get them back to there. We know that not many people do it because time poor, whatever the reason. And we like any good marketing, how much does it cost? Work it out. Are we getting return on investment? That's the end of the slide. That's a few of the people we work with. Is there anything from that little sheet that we didn't kind of touch off on? And there was a question there before, but did we touch on most of those things? So having a strategy probably helps not winging it, correct? Whatever that strategy looks like, having a strategy, objectives, having some objectives behind it. Optimised, I think we touched on the fact is don't overpost. If you've seen news.com.au and you've seen them on Facebook, they're posting every 5 minutes. You'll see there's no engagement on it. It's purely a news outlet. No one's engaging with it, right? So they could have 500,000, but maybe only 5,000 max are seeing it. So they're down to 1%. The purpose, we've talked about having a purpose and making sure that you know what that purpose is. We've talked about getting education. We want to keep learning. I would say to you, I've been fortunate enough a couple of times to be in sessions where Facebook people have been talking. Facebook's not going to get worse, right? Facebook's just getting better, right? And people often say, well, how do you keep up with it? Well, it's not that hard to keep up with. It's just incrementally, it's getting better. It took over Instagram. Instagram now has calls to action. It's getting better, right? It's not too late, by the way, to ever join, right? It's never too late. 50% of people aren't even on it. It's never too late. Time management, important. Don't spend too much time. Biggest mistake, too much time, too much money. So where 95% of the people I usually speak with, it's a bit like I spend no time and no money. There is 5% that come in and they put a 0 on what I charge per month. And I'm like, there's some cowboys out there that will do everything, right? Website, SEO, social, beware. Our website has all pricing, right? At least do the research, what it costs. Don't spend too much time, too much money. And as I said, with advertising, Facebook don't care if you've got 100,000 followers or 100 followers. They treat your dollar the same. They don't care. They don't want you. They don't want you. If you've only got 100 followers or 1,000 followers, they'd prefer bigger business. But the way that they work their ads algorithm, it's the same benefit. And we've talked about web and social working together. Migrating traditional, well, my parents don't know whether they're being advertised or whether they're just seeing a cute picture of my 4-year-old. So realistically, sooner or later, you'll get the ones to see your stuff. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your questions and the opportunity to share today. And thank you to my helpers. Thank you. Awesome.